my channel. My name is Tara for anyone who's new here, and today we're going to be working on 3 styles of belts that you can make in under 20 minutes. I've been being really particular shopping for new belts for my dresses, for waist belts, or for my trousers and pants that I have, and I just couldn't find anything that would work with my style or that I just really liked. So I did some research and I found a few varieties that we're going to try making today, all of which are going to be super easy, super convenient, and biggest of all, super customizable to your taste. So let me show you the materials. Okay, going from easiest to most complex, the first variety of belt that we're going to be making is using cotton webbing. It's going to be the exact same style, just using these 2 different cotton webbings that I ended up finding at the craft store. These are super customizable because you can find any color, any material, or even any pattern at your local craft store, online, Etsy, wherever you end up shopping to make this belt. It even comes in different thicknesses. As you can see, one is 1.25 inches and one is 1.5 inches wide. And these are going to be super easy to put together. The next belt we'll work on is going to be a fabric belt. This one is a little more time intensive, but we can still get this finished in under 20 minutes. I'm going to be using this striped canvas that I have here. It's kind of busy, but with the color scheme, it's going to go with a lot of different dresses and things that I have in my closet already. And then the last and potentially the most complex one is going to be a macrame belt. So similar braiding style belts that you probably have seen, some in leather, some in paracord. You can make yours out of those different materials or even mixed materials. But I'm going to be using these 2 colored macrame cords that I got from my local craft store today. And then for closures, or buckles, excuse me, I'm going to be using these rectangular D belts. Another variety of D belt is an actual D-shaped D belt. These are great for adjustable belts in case you want to wear it at your waist and then another day wear it at your hips. These allow you to adjust the size evenly without having to worry about punching a new hole. And then for the macrame belt, I got more traditional silver belt buckles just because it's going to be woven. So it's going to be easy for the prong in the belt to just poke through without causing any damage or any extra work. So with that, let's get started. Okay, so here we're starting off with the gold and cream colored cotton webbing belt. This is really a simple process. We're going to fold over the end about 2 times to encase the raw edge, and then run a straight line, making sure to capture that interior folded piece down the belt, and then trim the edges. And then we're going to flip it over to the other side, putting on the 2 D-rings, and then do the exact same thing. We're going to flip once you measure around your waist, which is what I'm doing here, you're then going to trim the raw edge, making sure that you have enough space for sewing. Turn it over twice or fold it twice onto the back end, and then sew another straight line. You can honestly even do this by hand because it is really that simple of a process. I was honestly surprised with how quickly this came together. And then with that second straight line put in, this belt is done. Literally maybe 5 minutes. And so like I said, you can make this belt out of almost any material. Here I'm using 100% cotton. Of course, not 100% cotton for the gold, but it is 100% cotton webbing. There's polyester webbing where you could even burn the ends instead of sewing it. That way it doesn't start unraveling. And then there are even dozens of other patterns as well. Okay, and now we're moving on to our fabric belt. As you can see here, I have my strip of fabric already cut out to size. I ended up having to join 2 pieces just because it wasn't long enough for my waist. But you just want to measure it out based on the finished thickness. So I wanted my belt to be about 1 inch wide. So I measured out 4 inches of fabric widthwise, and then the length is based on my waist size that I took. So here I'm applying some lightweight fusible. This is just going to add a little bit of firmness to the belt so that it's not, floppy. I'm then going to go ahead and start folding it. So first, folding it in half, making sure that everything lines up, and pressing that seam with a hot iron. Pressing and ironing, if anyone doesn't know, is different. So with pressing, you want to have not just the heat of the iron, but also some pressure, like push down with it. And here, once you have it fully folded and pressed in half, you're then going to tuck the inside, essentially folding it in a quarter now on one side, and press that new seam on the inside as well. And then once you're done, you're going to do the exact same thing with the opposite side. So now I'm giving it one final press before I go ahead and close up the end with a straight stitch. And this is just going to be a straight top stitch, making sure to stay even along the edge, because you're then going to top stitch the opposite edge of the belt as well. And once those top stitches are in, following the final steps of the cotton webbing belt, we have our second belt fully done. All right, now that we finished the other 2 types of belt, we're now going to start the more complex one, which is going to be our macrame belt. I'll try to go a little bit slower with this one because it is a little complex or difficult if you've never macrame before. I used to make macrame jewelry in college, so even though I don't remember all the names of the knots and different techniques, once I get going, it'll probably be pretty much muscle memory. So we're going to take you guys up top so that you can get a better view of what we're doing with this one. When it comes to macrame projects, especially large ones like this, always lean towards more cord than less. I think for these strands, I cut them to be maybe 60 inches long each, and then you fold them in half and tie them onto the belt buckle like I'm showing here. My first thoughts were to do only 2 strands, one in white and one in pink, but I do eventually add a third white strand onto the belt just to give it a little more balance. And so with those tied onto the belt buckle, you then want to secure it to something stable where you can get some kind of force while you're tying that'll hold it in place. So I ended up just using a tripod that I had sitting around. Now, once the 2 base cords are attached, you're going to take your secondary cord, which will also be cut to the 60 inches or however long you need. And then you're going to tie a square knot. A square knot is a 2-part macrame knot where, using kind of the traditional overhand method that you tie your shoe with, you'll take your tying cord and put it behind the stationary cord and then just make a normal overhand knot. Typically I do left rope over the right rope and cross through and tie that. And then the second part is you do it the opposite way. So in my case, it would be taking the right rope and crossing over the left rope. That sounds kind of simple, but as you can see from the video, it's a little more intensive than I guess I'm describing it, which is why I'm trying to relearn it here in the video, because it's been years since I've even made anything macrame. But with the square knot, once you get the hang of it and you get going, muscle memory kind of takes over and does a lot of the work for you. just want to take this time to apologize for oversimplifying this project. I definitely thought that I remembered macrame being a lot easier, but it's officially been about half an hour, and I believe we're about done with this first white cord. So if I were to math this out, 30 minutes for one cord, we have 2 more cords left to go. This is about a 90-minute project, not including the final joining of all 3 cords, which I'm not going to estimate the time on that because I was so wrong for this one. So we're just going to try our best to continue working through this. And all in all, it's definitely going to be at least under 2 hours. I'm just measuring this out to make sure that it'll fit my waist, which is 30 inches, and this is 39 inches, so extra 9 inches of space, so that's good. We're gonna stop with this one and move on to the pink one. Just to specify how I started these again, you have your 2 strands here that we've attached to the belt loop. You're gonna take your add-on cord and find the middle point, loop it behind the 2 cords, pull it all the way up to the base of the belt, and then you're just gonna tie a normal knot, kind of like tying your shoe, but with extra long cords. Tighten it and then push it all the way up to the knot that connects it to the belt buckle. And then you'll start on your square knots. I know starting on this white cord, it looked really tedious, constantly having to regather the cords because they're so long in the beginning. But towards the end, I found a process where I would just have them in piles. That way it's a lot easier to criss and cross and turn and tie with the piles versus the individual strands, especially at this longer length. So cross over, go under the 2 main ones, and then cross back over and tighten. That's the first half of the square knot. The second half is then you're gonna take the opposite side. We started with the left side for the first knot, now the right side for the next knot. Cross over, and then taking this pile, again, go under the one you just crossed over, under the 2 in the middle, and macrame, once you get kind of in a groove, it's honestly therapeutic. You know, the first row was really a learning process as I picked back up the skills I already knew. The pink row was kind of more of a efficiency part. I had figured out what works best and what doesn't work in terms of speed macrame, I guess you could say. So this third row, I can see the end in sight and I'm really just moving. At this point, I also started standing just because it was a lot more comfortable since I was sitting here for 30-minute stretches finishing this off. And now, thankfully, with the final rope done, we're going to join the 3 cords. And to do that, we're going to braid it, which is why I opted to add that 3rd strand in. It's going to be a nice, thick 3-strand braided belt. I'm having a little difficulty here because I did leave the ends unbound, just straight string, because we're going to join them at the end of the belt once we're done with the braiding process. Okay, and now we're finally coming to the end of this belt. Once you're finished braiding or plaiting down as far as you need and you get to the raw edges, you want to check to make sure that the size or the circumference of the belt fits your waist or hips as comfortably as you'd like. And then once you've verified that, you can move on to the final part, which is going to be finishing the tip or the end piece of the belt. So finding a good stopping point, I chose to stop with the pink in the middle. You're then going to take one of the outside strings. So then taking the outside one, you're going to loop the next one to that one through it, tying a knot onto the outside string, like so. And you're going to keep doing that until you get to the middle string. All right, set those strings to the side, kind of organized, and then we're going to do the exact same thing with the opposite outside string. Okay, and now the next step is to do the exact same thing again on both sides, at least for 2 more rows. These are just joining and kind of interlocking the cords for all three strands of the braid so that they stay together. And then once we're through with that, we're going to get my crochet hook and I'm going to show you how to crochet the ends back into the knots of the belt, and then we'll be done. And now for the final step. Here we are, now that we're finally done tying the end part together, we can go ahead and trim the end of the cords, leaving about 2 to 3 inches so that we can have some length to work with. Using the crochet hook, you're going to push it through about 3 to 4 lines along the back side of the belt and grab the end, starting with the end piece, grab the end of one of the leftover macrame strings. And then just working to pull that through about 3 to 4 knots in the back or lines in the back so that we can hide the string. These knots are really kind of tight, tighter than I would have thought originally, but I guess the tighter it is, the better it is at staying. So this is actually kind of difficult for me. It took a lot longer than I initially thought. Kind of the going phrase for this video, right? But we persevere. So just moving one cord at a time, we just make sure to pull them through the knots in the back. And then of course, if there's any extra length to the cord, once it's pulled to the back, you can then trim it again with the scissors. The final step in this, which I did off camera, was to apply some super glue to all the strands and joints along the back part of the belt where I tucked in those leftover strands, just to give it a little extra security as I'm wearing the belt out and about. So with that, we can now move on to the reveal. everyone, and there you have it. We finished all 3 of our types of belts. Now, of course, the time frame I gave for these projects were a little off, especially for the last 2, but the first 2 were literally under, so I feel like it all balances out in the end. These were literally maybe 3-minute belts, and you could even do these by hand since you only need 2 straight stitches, a stitch at the end and a stitch at the top to attach your buckles. But honestly, this gold one is probably one I'll be wearing most of the summer. It truly is my favorite just because of the color and the simplicity of it. Okay, and so now we have our cotton belt here. I really like this one. It's a lot plainer, a lot simpler than the gold one, which is my favorite, but it's honestly gonna go so well with a lot of my solid color dresses and even some of my pants that have slimmer belt loops. It's so adjustable in size that it's gonna work out with majority of uses that I have for it. And then of course, our beast of a belt that we built that I severely underestimated, our macrame belt. This one honestly put me in the mood to make more macrame projects. I'm really happy with how this turned out. And it is such a fun color combination. But the truth is, I did not think this out clearly. This belt buckle is way too small to fit the end of the belt into. And I'm really disappointed about it. I'm probably gonna brainstorm out how I wanna resolve this, if I can resolve this. But for the time being, obviously, I can't wear this belt, which is probably why you guys did not get to see it in the reveal. What a disappointment. This literally took so much time and effort, and it's not even usable. Potentially, I could pull them apart and make them into tie belts. I know a lot of macrame belts are tie style belts, kind of bohemian style. So we'll see about that. But otherwise, if you made this belt and used a proper size buckle, or at least a significantly bigger buckle, or even made the belt itself smaller. I think if I had gone with my initial idea of doing 2 strands instead of 3, I probably would have had a smaller end that would have fit through here. But hindsight is always 20/20. In the end, these were all fun projects. I learned a lot, and I'm happy that I've been able to help you guys with any quick or not so quick DIY belt ideas. So thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please don't forget to hit a thumbs up on your way out and subscribe if you want to see more crafting content from me. And I'll see you guys next Sunday for our next project.